Hey team, welcome back to Dukes on Twitch. Back today with a Abzan Maverick Legacy League. It's been a while. I haven't streamed in nearly a week, which doesn't sound like much, but it's definitely been a nice break. Just to get away from Magic and to do some other things and focus on real life. But yeah, I thought if I'm going to come back to streaming, it's going to be coming back to Legacy Maverick. And here we are. This is the list that I've been playing for a pretty long time. The only real changes have been in the sideboard. I did like adding the second part to Exile. I was running a second Planeswalker for some of the mid-range control matchups, but I really like having access to Path right now with so many Delvers and Sprite Dragons, etc. running around. Lands has been a pretty formidable threat in the leagues that I've played. I do think that Maverick has a lot of game against lands, but it really depends on how fast you can answer things like Valakut Exploration, Sylvan Library. It's not just about the graveyard anymore, and you definitely have to make sure you have some permanent based or removal that hits permanents, like the enchantments that lands plays, because yeah, we've been getting rolled where we've been having some hands, especially post board, relying on graveyard hate, so cards like Leyline, and our opponents playing in a way that don't really care about it, which is pretty interesting. I think Lance has always been seen as a graveyard deck that has its engine through Loam, but now with cards like Sylvan Library and Exploration, or Exploration and Valakut Exploration, they definitely have more than one way to really get that engine going. So you got to make sure in that matchup you're not just relying on graveyard hate anymore. You do keep in your decays. You do have Night of Autumn for things like enchantments, or even artifacts with Mox Diamond. Mox Diamond's always an interesting one. I'm always on the fence about Collector Oof, and if I want to bring it in, how aggressive I want to be with Wasteland. But with Leyline coming in, I usually like Collector Oof because lands is a deck that can struggle with their mana base, and Mox Diamond is a great way for them to be able to cast all their spells. And if you are cutting off the graveyard as a resource through Wasteland, then Oof can be pretty nice by taking them off their Moxes. So always a consideration. This deck is pretty clean. We have our mana base over here, 2 Bayou, 2 Savannah, 1 Scrubland. I really like the 5 Jewels and the 3 basics. I have seen some players just play 1 Forest, 1 Plains, and then play an extra fetch land. I'm okay with the 7 fetches and a 2-1 split of basics. Karakas, Rising Canopy, Cradle, and Dried Arbor as the one-off targets in utility, and then also the 4 Wastelands, of course. There was a time where I wanted to run Port, especially against a lot of the basic decks. When Loam was big, it was kind of nice to have Port for things like Maze of Ith, because Wasteland was really only a once-off use when they could get it back with Loam, whereas Port meant they need to have an answer for Port as well. And then there's been some other times where I've just wanted Port in kind of weird situations, but I think if I was going to try Port, I would try it in a green-white splash. One where I'm not too worried about my mana base, and I can just make sure I can get as enough testing as possible. But other than that, pretty happy with the 4 Wastelands. I've been playing 2 birds. Hey Sconnell, welcome. I have been finding at times Maverick with a black splash can have issues with access to black mana. And with the rise in Delver and Sprite Dragons, the birds along with Mum in this version have been pretty nice. And then also, of course, with Scrib Ranger, it's kind of a small lock with Mum. But yeah, the second birds has been really nice. I have been finding that with a lot of young Pyromancer decks and True Name making a small comeback, that Exalted isn't as big of an issue or as big of as a positive as it once was. And I think that the flexibility of having a bird that can make any color definitely comes up. So having the 2 birds is quite nice. This isn't a Stoneforge Mystic build, so we don't have a way to actually make the bird a threat without something like Noble Hierarch, but I'm okay with losing that ability just to have a little bit better of a mana base and having that extra flyer for when I really need it, because Maverick does have games against Delver where that 1 turn really helps. You really need that 1 extra turn to turn the corner sometimes, and yeah, having a second flyer that you can tutor up pretty quickly is pretty nice. For Thalia, great against combo, was great against combo, is still okay against combo, and it's just a kind of a nuisance for most blue decks. It's definitely a speed bump rather than an actual answer. So for anyone wanting to rely on just a Thalia against some of the blue decks and combo decks, definitely make sure you're also working towards something like Gaddock Teeg or closing the game out with Knight, because there is going to be a time where Thalia just isn't enough. And Mum's been really interesting. I think that it's really interesting to see how Plague Engineer was played in Legacy once it was printed. So there's obviously a huge sort of uproar about Plague Engineer when it was spoiled. A lot of people tried it out with a lot of Plague Engineer in the format. A lot of tribal decks and X1 creature decks kind of took a bit of a hit, and a lot of those players kind of removed themselves from the format. So then with all these tribal decks going out of the format, Plague Engineer kind of took a back foot. And I think it's now definitely back to not probably where it was just after Modern Horizons, but it's definitely back in a way where you do have to think about it. But I wouldn't say that you shouldn't play Mum because of Plague Engineer, because there's so many matchups where Plague Engineer isn't relevant and Mum is, and it's just so strong, especially against the Swords to Plowshares decks. To have something like a Gaddock Teeg on the field against maybe a Terminus deck, and just to know that you have Mum on play as well to give it some protection, it can feel really awkward being pretty naked out there with some of your threats against decks where Mum would be really solid. So Mum's been really, really strong. Obviously, if we have an opening of like, turn 1 Hierarch, turn 2 Thalia into Mum or something, and our opponent goes Engineer, then that's just life sometimes. But on the most part, Mum's been really strong. 2 Decay is definitely interesting. I like the Decays because of the Delver decks, and it's really nice to make sure that we just have uncounterable removal. There are a lot of times where I'll have maybe one sword on my opener, see him up against Delver, maybe play around Daze, take a little bit of time, swords the Delver, have it countered, and then just lose because I don't draw a second removal spell. So having A, extra removal in the deck, and B, extra uncounterable removal is really solid. The only downside to Decay is of course, there's some decks where it's just not really relevant. Decks like Show and Tell, maybe Ant, you can sometimes hit a Lotus Petal and be okay with it, but it is going to be a dead cut in some matchups, but I've been pretty well enjoying it. Plague as well, I think it's just a big reason to play Black right now as well. It gives you a huge bonus against some of the fair decks and other combo decks in creature-based decks, like some of the Goblin Lackey Turbo Muxus decks, Elves. It's obviously really sweet if your combo opponent goes for an Empty the Warrens early on and you have Plague in hand. And then, of course, it's fantastic in the mirror. Death and Taxes. Esper Vial, it's pretty good against. And just an all-round good creature. I mean, against something like a Grixis Delver deck, if you can name Human to turn off Young Pyromancer and Delver, and then just have Plague as a 2/2 Death Touch blocker for Gurmag Angler, it can be really solid and make your opponent have to dig for a removal spell before they want to start attacking with Gurmag or some other threat. The Green Suns package is pretty straightforward. The only change I've thought about over time, and I have been doing it on and off, is a switch between Knight of Autumn and Qasali Pridemage. I do like Qasali Pridemage in the Stoneforge Mystic builds, because then you have Exalted as well to help you get through with something like maybe Jide on a bird, or just wanting to get through a bigger creature on the opposing side. But Knight of Autumn just being so versatile is really nice. It's also, in most cases, a 2-for-1, where you get to destroy something, and then your opponent has to use a removal spell on the creature, whereas Qasali Pridemage is usually a 1-for-1, where you have to actually sacrifice the body to get rid of an artifact or enchantment. But Knight's been pretty solid. The only reason that I did Qasali Pridemage as well was the lower CMC, so having a 2-drop was quite nice, but sometimes holding up the mana was a little bit awkward with Qasali Pridemage, but I think otherwise it's been okay. Ramanap really strong with Wasteland against the dual decks, with Canopy and Dried Arbor against some of the more fair decks, just to grind things out. Ramanap's been pretty insane, especially getting back a black source against some of the Wasteland decks where black is optimal, so Death and Taxes, Esper Vial, Maverick. Ramanap's a nice way to recover from an early Wasteland kind of strategy from your opponent. Questing Beast. Questing Beast has been awesome. Questing Beast is a sweet card. I have seen some people testing out Shifting Ceratops, just because it does obviously have Pro Blue and Reach, making it really good against Delver and Sprite Dragon. Pretty hard for your opponent to beat outside of Double Bolt. Hey Jack, thanks for the Questing Beasts. But I think the Beast still has room in the format. There's probably less. I think it's pretty easy to say there's less Planeswalkers in the format since the banning of Oko, but Beast has been really nice. Hey Nathan, hope you're well. And then just, yeah, the 4 Green Suns, the 2 Libraries, the 4 Knights. Yeah, as I said before, the only change to the sideboard was an extra path for the more aggressive decks. And yeah, Force of Vigor I've been liking as well, especially against lands. Lands is a big one. Any deck where I have to deal with a Sylvan Library, I'm really happy to have Force of Vigor there, so that's pretty good. You just beat Maverick with Oops when they had Thalia, Teeg, and Deafening Silence on field. Interesting. What was your win con through Teeg? Because I guess you can't Dread Return, and you can't cast a Charbelcher. This stream is a fan of the Collect Oof. Ah, cast Oracle in hand? Nice. Very cool. Oracle. Maverick, yes, yes. Cool. Nice, there we go. Cast Spy, hardcast Oracle. And then activate. Yeah, Spy. Okay, that's pretty cool. Very nice. Yeah, Oops is a cool deck. Sometimes it's a little bit tough to play against, especially as a fair player, but you have to acknowledge that those decks are in the format, and I'm sure it feels really good when an Oops player goes off, like, you know, turn 1 or something, which is pretty cool. Doomsday beats Oops? I'm sure it does. Doomsday beats a lot of things, Jack. Up against Alex. Nice. And Sand's pretty good. Turn 1 Bird. We could turn 1 Mum, but kind of just want to accelerate here, because then we have turn 2 Green Suns if we really need it, like for like a Gaddock Teeg. And then we could also have turn 2 Abrupt Decay and Mum, turn 2 Plague. Pretty happy for this. Windswept most likely getting Scrubland, just in case the bird dies, but if the bird dies, we can do like a turn 2 of like Mum and Green Suns for Dried Arbor, to just keep things going. Opponent goes to 6 as well. I'm not too sure which Alex. But I guess we will see. Hey Shark. What would you play in a spot if you didn't have the second Bayou? I would probably go with another fetch land. And I would probably go with a build of 2 birds, if that's the case. Could play Overgrown Tomb, but it can definitely come up with a 2 damage is pretty big against Delver. If you're playing in paper, you could probably look at your local metagame and see if the Tomb would be okay against like non-aggressive decks. But to be fair, a lot of Abzan decks do play 2 Savannah, 1 Scrubland, 1 Bayou. So the 5th Jewel isn't always the big one. Hey Orange Shield, welcome. I hope you are well. This is an interesting start. Cabal Therapy off a Swamp. Hogaak plays a Swamp. This could be like a Nick Fit deck. A lot of options. Nick Fit's going to be interesting because, of course, Plague Engineer on whatever Veteran Explorer is, I assume it's a human, isn't the greatest. They go with Green Suns. Nice call. Hey, Red the Reckless, welcome. Yeah, I think a lot of Brisbane players unfortunately got hit pretty hard by the sellout of Highlander, so I think it took the toll on a lot of players. Let's just go for Scrubland into Mum. I guess we can tap the bird. And then we have Abrupt Decay and Swords Up. So yeah, I'm actually not too sure how many Brisbane players are going down now, because a lot of them were really keen on Highlander. But Red, it's going well. I hope you're going well. Hope you're having a nice weekend. Okay. Cabal Swamp Windswept Heath makes me think this is just going to be a Nick Fit deck. Savannah. Explorer is really strong here because even though I have removal for it, and really good removal in Swords to Plowshares, I don't have a great way to actually do anything unless they do something in response to Cabal Therapy. They don't. So we can't really do anything here. So we'll just go get our extra basics. I assume they take Plague because it's just the only threat we have. The other two cards are pretty reactive, but you never know. Having Decay for Pernicious Deed is pretty big in this matchup. Yeah, definitely. I haven't seen too much about the new statement from Watsy, but it is pretty tough to see that sort of stuff. But yeah, I definitely feel for those in there. Good coffee. Riley Knight, another Aussie streamer. Hey Riley, a huge thank you for the raid. Very nice. Too kind. I hope you're doing well. I'm not too sure where you're based right now. G'day, big fella. G'day. Hope you're doing well. Yeah, Riley, what'd you just play? And how did you go? Yeah, thankfully this is a Sunday morning stream, which I try to do to get to the masses, but it's a good one. I was actually just talking to chat about the Eternal Weekend in Melbourne coming up, which is pretty cool. Which I know is where you're from, I believe, listening to your Humans of Magic podcast. So at least here we get to cast a Plague in the blind, and then we can also hold up Swords to Plowshares pretty easily. Where's it being held? That's a good one. The Jiggers Always Up can tell us. I believe it's at a new place in Ringwood. Next Level Games in Ringwood. There we go. Because it used to be always in Dandenong at Fast. I always forget it. But yeah, it should be a nice time. I know a lot of friends are moving over from South Australia. A few from Brisbane, Perth. A lot of players, which is really cool. This is an interesting one with the Plague, because I don't really want to name Veteran Explorer, or at least name Human, because I know my opponent could maximize the potential of it just dying straight away and getting them more basics, because we only have 2 basics left. Don't have any great attacks either, but I do want to play the Plague out, at least to get some sort of pressure on the field. So I'm not too sure what I could name that otherwise hits the deck, other than just having a Plague on the field. My only thought is Snake. Yeah, Soldier's a good one if they're on a RectorFit. My thought was Snake because of Hex Drinker, which seems kind of cool in this deck as a way to get there. But yeah, I don't mind Soldier. But it does hit Veteran. I'm gonna go with Snake. I'm gonna go with Snake and just pass here. Hey, thanks, Shield. All the best. But yeah, this is a tough board because obviously a Pernicious Deed for my opponent would be really strong here. Deed really sweet as well with Veteran Explorer. It's just another way to get rid of the Explorer and get more basics out. Green Suns for 1. Okay. Interesting. I'm going to untap first and see what happens. Noble. Okay. This is actually pretty tough because I don't want to build my board too much into Pernicious Deed, but at the same time adding Noble gives Exalted to the Plague Engineer, so I don't mind just going empty here. which also turns off opposing Cabal therapies, which is kind of nice. Mum usually really good in the fair matchups, but obviously here, not the greatest with cards like Toxic Deluge, perhaps. Definitely Deed. And opponent pretty close to 5 mana here, which is where some of their top end curves out. So things like Titania, Arena Rector. Alright. Nice. And they have the tower to sack the Rector. Very cool. So I assume we'll see something like Ugin here, perhaps. Yeah. Ugin's pretty solid. Another way to kind of like play out like a Pernicious Deed. We do have some live draws. Collector Oof off the top would be really strong. Unfortunately, sorry, Questing Beast. Unfortunately, Green Suns isn't because we don't have the 5th mana. But there's the 5th mana. I am going to keep the land in hand for now, just because as unknown information, it's a little bit better. Especially if my opponent does have something like a creature. Thalia. Well, definitely worth playing out. Unfortunately, it does turn off Green Suns off the top because it acts as an extra 1 to the taxing effect, but Ugin's going to be a tough one to beat. I don't think Thalia does anything by my hand anyway, so I might as well play it out. Teeg, pretty irrelevant because it also turns off Green Sun, so I think Teeg is actually not worth playing out. Double spell is definitely an option, yeah. Night of Autumn. Yeah, now we're just dead to Ugin, unfortunately. I can actually allow them to ulti and see what they actually put in play to get more information out of the deck. If they're playing Arena Rector as well, I probably like bringing in the ley lines because it stops both Veteran and Arena Rector. And hopefully some other cards we see here. I believe Arena Rector also puts the creature into play. Yeah, so it plays around Gaddock Teeg, which is pretty strong. Interesting. Okay, so it's good to know they're actually playing the Libram Apprentice combo as well. And Professor Onyx. Interesting. So, Professor Onyx is a 6-mana walker, Magecraft. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery... Whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery spell, each opponent loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. The +1 is you lose 1 life, look at the top 3 cards of your library, put one of them into your hand and the rest into your graveyard. -3 is each opponent sacrifices a creature with the greatest power among creatures I control. -8 is each opponent may discard a card. If they don't, they lose 3 life. Repeat this process 6 times. Okay. Interesting. So another way to actually play with Chain of Smog is Professor Onyx. Nice. This is going to be an interesting one. I do like the ley lines because they do shut off Arena Rector and Veteran Explorer. It's not the greatest strategy, but I think it's okay here. Kai is also pretty interesting. Kai is a nice way to also just bring in extra graveyard hate if I don't want to bring in all the ley lines. Thoughtseize is pretty nice. Path is probably okay. There's a situation where pathing a Veteran Explorer isn't too bad because it gives them just 1 land instead of 2. We did see Sylvan's Library, and I am going to suspect they're playing Pernicious Deed, so Force of Vigor is interesting as well. It's kind of a maybe pile. I don't like the Thalias. I'm not a big fan of the Plagues, to be honest. Gaddock Teeg's also interesting. But if we are turning off their Arena Rectors, then Gaddock Teeg is actually quite good at turning off their Planeswalkers, if they do somehow get to the mana for them. I like the swords. Mums are okay, but seeing that they're playing black, I'm going to assume Plague Engineer's in the deck, so I don't mind cutting down. I obviously don't want to over sideboard. I don't think this is the matchup for Roundnap either, just because they play a lot of basics. It's not like Wasteland is going to be that strong as a recursive effect. But I don't want to overboard. Hey Deep Hizzle, thanks for the Prime sub. Let me know where you're from. If you play Legacy, what do you play in Legacy? You think Force of Vigor is overboarding? Yeah, that's fair enough. We do have Night of Autumn and Abrupt Decays, so I could see Force of Vigor staying out and maybe just a Plague staying in. Just to wipe the board if we do have ley lines out, or maybe it's actually the Hierarch. Maybe the mana acceleration is just better than anything else. I don't mind this. See how this plays out. So this is an interesting hand. It's a turn 1 Leyline and a turn 1 Mum, turn 2 Teeg. We also have Skoos as backup for the Leyline. Doesn't have much of a plan, but hey, Knight of Winds, welcome. I'm going to see how this goes. I'm going to see how this goes. Definitely want to keep the ooze in hand for a little while. I don't want to play it out and have that and Leyline being hit by a Pernicious Deed, so I think here I'm happy just to go Verdant into Savannah into Canopy. I could get hit by not having black if I draw it to Abrupt Decay, so I might actually just go Scrubland. Even though it's not the extra green for Ooze or Questing Beast, I think this is okay. From Wisconsin, I usually play Modern, but been watching your Legacy D&T and really enjoying it. Nice. Very cool. That's awesome to hear. Legacy D&T is really cool. If you like Modern D&T, then I think you'll definitely like the other builds. Okay. I'm going to keep the fetch for now, especially if we draw into Sylvan Library. I do want the fetch to give me the option of just taking one card and shuffling away the rest. There is a world where the Mum's actually a free attack, but I'm not too sure what my opponent has for removal outside of just generic removal like Plague Engineer or some sort of sweeper effect. Hey Matt Soul. I did consider playing Canopy. I wasn't sure if the damage would stack up. And there's a library, which is nice. Okay. So in my eyes, this library really has to dig for either Abrupt Decay or Force of Vigor. A Wasteland doesn't do it here because they can cast the deed, and if a Wasteland, they can untap play another land. Yeah, they did just try to do something, so I do think they have something like a Green Sun Zenith in hand. Knight's really nice here. Dry double Leyline. Okay, I'm going to put back the Leyline, but I'm going to pay for the Arbor. Play this, fetch away the second Leyline, probably just get a Savannah and play the Knight. Hey Fox, I had a family commitment yesterday, so I couldn't make the event, but congratulations, I believe you took it out with, I'm gonna remember it, the Pumps? The Pumpy deck? It's not the Pumpy deck. What's it called? Prowess. There we go. Prowess. Nice. The Pumpy deck. Nice. I think I'm pretty happy just sending this back. So 4 ley lines, Kaya, Thoughtseize. I think that's all we brought in, because we've got Mum for Thalia is 5, 6, 7, 8. 8, yeah. Went undefeated? Very cool. Very nice. Is it Rug? I believe it's Rug. What are some of your, what were some of your highlighted plays? I'm sure there was some pretty explosive turns. Yeah, we're just sending this back. A pretty interesting hand. It is pretty reactive, but I think this is okay on the draw. Yeah, I think I'm okay with this. I think the leyline can buy us enough time, hopefully. And then we have multiple ways to deal with either, like, veteran and removal for leyline. Opponent went to 6. It's a very reactive hand, so drawing into like a land and then something else would be really nice. Cavernous Souls, interesting. All right. Oh, opponent with an upkeep stop. The question is, if I draw into a fetch land, do I play the fetch and pass in case they have removal for the leyline, to then hold up swords on the Veteran Explorer? What is opponent on? It looks to be like a Jund Jund Nickfit deck, which is pretty interesting. Interesting emote when. So Nickfit is a deck that uses Veteran Explorer, which is a creature that when it dies, each player may search their library for up to 2 basic land cards. And then you can, yeah, hopefully ramp into things that your opponent can't beat. Usually a lot better when your opponent doesn't have ways to interact. And when your opponent isn't on many basics, like Rug Delver or many of the Legacy decks. But there's definitely a few now that have a fair amount. Another Swords. It's just going to be a pass here with Swords and Abrupt Decay open. This is fine. The question is, do I really care about the Veteran Explorer here? I could use the Sword to decay on it, but I think I'm happy just to untap. Game 1, you untap with 3 lands, Dreadwood Arcanist and nothing in the bin. Gushed into a Sprite Dragon, Fire Blasted Jacob twice, and attacked for 10 for exactly lethal. Game 2, collect a oof on board, nothing else, attacked for 20 with the oof. Haha! That's pretty interesting. The question is, yeah, with the William Apprentice, if I just tap out here for night, and am I doing myself a disfavor? Should I wait for one more land, so then I can actually just hold up swords as well? They haven't played anything else out, yeah. I think I'd rather just not play into being dead to the combo. Green Suns. Okay. Okay. I could get a Gaddock Teeg if I'm really scared of a Planeswalker, but I'm more so wanting to get my mana online, so I can get Night down, start going after their lands, and then also hold up removal for anything they can do. Was a little bit risky that they could remove the bird in response to the untap. Is this a Green Suns for 3? No. Yeah, because my opponent wasn't doing anything, I thought they might have the combo. I'm just waiting for a chance to do it when I'm tapped out. What? They floated mana and they did nothing. Huh. I did have a free attack there, I apologize. I should have attacked with the Script Ranger. This feels like an Abrupt Decay, perhaps? Assassin's Trophy on Leyline. That is going to be fine. I'm just going to untap the bird here, just so they can't respond to it in their turn and do something. Nice, now we can hold up Abrupt Decay and Swords. We can cast Leyline next turn as well, which is nice, thanks to Bird and Script Ranger. So, opponent using the Assassin's Trophy there on the Leyline and not the Knight definitely makes me think they have something big here. A Rector's okay. Now, is it like sack a creature as part of this? Yeah, rough. Because we can't do anything here, so it is just going to be a pass. It's not like we have screws and we can eat this in response. It's pretty strong. So I believe the only out we have there is something like, in response to the trigger of Arena Rector, we can eat it. And then they can't do that. I know that works with Academy Rector. I'm not sure if it works with Arena Rector. Yikes. BUG would have been good. Unfortunately, the Knight wasn't online, but BUG would have been solid. Questing Beast? Noble. Alright. There goes our black mana as well, which is pretty tough. Green Suns for 3. Wonder what they get. Eternal Witness. Nice. Well, I definitely want a Swords in response. Keep them off any creatures. There is a world where playing out the Noble last turn was correct, because then if I draw into Green Suns, I can get Questing Beast. Steals 3 damage. Okay, at least we can double spell here. And I guess gain 4 is just the mode that I should choose, because the Ugin dealing 3 can just kill the knight either way. Just a little bit too slow. Yikes. So they have Explorer, and then they also have Diabolic Intent in hand. So they'll have 5 mana. We do have a basic left. Yeah, the hand was pretty reactive. I mean, we had double decay, or maybe 1 decay in our opener, and we haven't cast it yet, so definitely didn't line up well, but we had a few turns for good draws. We might as well see what our opponent can do here. Nice. They have 1 card left. Questing Beast gets rid of... Okay, well now the knight's gone, so... Nice. Rough. Cool deck, but it's good to see Nick Fit in the format, and people trying out new cards like the Professor Onyx with the Witherbloom combo. Hey Ponza, thanks for the follow. Let me know where you're from. If you play Legacy, what you play in Legacy, or if you just play Magic in general. But yeah, Trophy's really solid in Nick Fit, because usually after using a Veteran Explorer, your opponent has most likely got rid of most basics from the deck, so Trophy is usually just a really good upside of just destroy anything, just really a Vindicate, which is nice. It's a pretty sweet hand. Turn 1 Acceleration, we have turn 2 Double Knights or Ramanap later on in the game. Pretty happy to keep this. Turn 1 Noble also allows a Green Suns turn 2 for something like Teeg against an unfair deck, so... A Tundra Ponder is definitely not what I want to see. Usually means we're going to be playing against maybe Terminus or Supreme Verdict, which are obviously pretty good against these decks. What do they do? They chose not to shuffle. I honestly don't mind the turn 1 Wasteland. They didn't shuffle, so I assume their mana's all good, but to take them off a Tundra in the early game is usually pretty nice against a control deck, so pretty happy just to reset the game in some ways. Trop, okay, it's like a BANT deck. Okay, interesting. Days. Stoneforge. Batterskull. Okay. Happy just to go for a basic here and play the Thalia out. Oh, they missed a land drop. Huge. Okay. That's actually pretty relevant, because it means that if they want to counter the knight here, then they have to... they can't put in Batterskull the same turn. I'm still pretty happy to go for basics here, because the Knights and the Raminaps give us access to black. I don't want to be put back to 2 lands next turn, and then not draw the 3rd to play anything out. This is the sort of Magic that I like to play. Swords is fine. They didn't have a land last turn. Do they have a land this turn? Oh, okay. Well, now we have Wasteland and Ramanap online, which I actually like here. They can't counter it, which is great. And we have all the time in the world against this Batterskull, so pretty happy about this. Next turn we can even Plague on Human to take out the Noble, and then have the Plague trade with the Batterskull if they attack, so this looks like a really good spot. Hex is more than fine. Nice. Okay, let's go for Windswept Heath. Probably just fetch up a Scrubland, then we have 2 white as well. They can't force this, which is great, because of Thalia. Yeah, they're just going to concede, wow. That's pretty huge, because there is a world where they have, like, all the time in the world. The Hex Trigger could get out of hand if we don't name Snake, and they just get to the mana for it. But with Wasteland Online, it's going to be pretty tough. They have to kind of go, like, 3 fetches in a row, and hope we don't have removal as well, so... seeing what we saw, I'm just going to say this is like a BANT Stoneblade list, and sideboard that way. So, Plagues are interesting, especially seeing Noble Hierarch and perhaps True Name. I don't mind siding out the Thalias and some amount of Swords. Because we have the Decays. I do like the Thoughtseizers. I do like the Oof. I do like the Chokes. I don't mind the Kaya as just another way to deal with Noble Hierarchs, etc. Wasteland still seems strong. Hex Drinker, Birds, Mum, Swords, Decay. Teeg's interesting. Take out the Fat. I do actually like Zealous. I think Zealous is sweet here. Force is pretty sweet as well. I assume they're playing Sylvan Library. Ramanap's great. Night of Autumn's great. Night's nice. Questing Beast, Plagues. I think this is okay. Teeg is probably the one card that I'm meh about, but if they have things like Jace, maybe Supreme Verdict, or some sort of board wipe, I don't mind having Teeg in the deck. Yeah. I guess if I was going to stack it up, I would say that Teeg turning off our own Green Suns is worse than Teeg turning off Force of Will. They might keep in some forces for cards like Choke that they might just need answers to, but... I just like Teeg because it's 5 copies with Green Suns, whereas Thalia is just 1 copy of a card that I might see. We'll see how this goes, and hopefully it's okay. I'll keep this for sure. This is a sweet hand. We did see Days turn 1, or in game 1, sorry, so that's something to think about. Noble. Wasteland. Huh. No. I don't want a Wasteland because the Choke kind of answers the trop anyway. I want to try to keep this for something else. Maybe they have like Karakas in the deck. Teferi's pretty good. Land Hierarch Pass. I could Plow. Actually, yeah, Plow's pretty good. Yeah, hitting their mana is really solid here. If they want to daze, they can daze. Wasteland's fine. Sylvan Library's okay. Hey, Aeon Magic, thanks for the follow. Let me know where you're from. If you play Legacy, what do you play in Legacy? This is fine. You're from Brazil? Very cool. Brazil has a really good Eternal scene. Chose not to shuffle. Righto. I kind of want to attack with the Noble here, so I probably just want to play Forest into Choke and hold up Daze in case they have Daze. Scrib is not free to untap, because I want to play a land this turn as well that goes on top. So I want to have 4 mana for the Choke, because I want to play around Daze. But Scrib is to untap, return this, play this, 3 mana. Come on now. Like, you have a Sylvan Library, you have a Teferi that's ticking up for the Choke. I guess some cards just get people. The Power Choke, yeah. Interesting. Cool. I mean, you take them. Definitely take them. Choke was super effective. On the draw, I don't mind this hand. It does have some nice early spells, so I'm going to keep this. Obviously, a land off the top just makes it really nice. Otherwise, it can be a little bit tough. Underground Sea. Yikes. Oof, okay. Most likely Hogaak? Force is a pretty fine draw. Oh, pretty fine blind name. Perfect. The big question is what I want to do next turn, because against Hogaak I do want to get Green Suns for Ooze pretty quickly. But I also want to play around just dying to altar. Bloodghast. They played the land first, I guess because of Stitcher Supplier perhaps. 2 Bloodghast. Double Cabal Therapy. So they can rip apart my hand here, if they really want. They might also just have Hogaak in the opening, which they can cast here. Okay. They hit a bridge, which is pretty big. Green Suns, yeah. So they're kind of scared of Thalia. Sorry, Scavenging Ooze. Which is fair enough. Interesting. Maybe they go after the swords here. Hey, Eternal Magic, welcome. Doing pretty well, thank you. I hope you're doing well. It's always nice to catch you on stream. Every now and then I get to check you guys out. Okay. I don't mind going land. Yeah, it's interesting. I kind of want my opponent to attack me with the zombie so I can fetch up a Dryad Arbor and block it to get rid of the bridge in the bin. But they currently only have one bridge. I don't mind Thalia here. I don't think Plague is that great with bridge in the bin. I could name zombie, but that means that I don't think one Plague does enough against the zombies for it to stop. It also means that their Stitch of Supplies die straight away, which is pretty big. Can't kill crabs. But yeah, it might just be the best thing. Yeah. It might just be the best thing. I'll go for a Bayou because the extra green does add up with Scavenging Ooze. Plague is only one-sided, so I can't kill my own things, unfortunately. But that would be a cool play. Next turn, I do have the option of also drawing a second Thalia and just playing both out to kill one to kill a bridge. Yikes. But Altar just makes this a little bit too strong. There's a second bridge, so I believe this is just a kill. If Plague was for both players, it would be too fair. Yeah, it probably would be. Yeah, and they have a Gak. Okay. Nice. Hogaak's going to be pretty interesting. So, Gaddock Teeg out. I don't mind keeping in Knight of Autumn and not bringing in the Collector Oof. But I do like a lot of things. Mainly these. Thalias can go out. I don't mind keeping in one Decay. Mums are fine, Swords are fine, Questing Beast is fine. Decay is good to kill my creatures, but I hope that I have the ley lines in play or some sort of control over their graveyard that bridges aren't going to affect this game. I'm going to drop a library. Hex is still really strong. Scoos is good. Scoop range is nice. It might just be one Mum. I really like the mana acceleration here, especially for Green Suns for Ooze, so we'll see how this goes. Definitely dependent on the leyline starts, so it'll be interesting to see if our opponent has Force of Vigor or Assassin's Trophy for it in the early game. But I don't want to keep a hand just because of leyline, I do want to have a plan for the hand as well. Oof to turn off Altar's nice, but I kind of just hope that, again, the graveyard is covered in a way that I don't have to worry about Altar. This is interesting because I do have the Sylvan Library to just get pretty aggressive with, but I do want to have a leyline hand. And this is actually a pretty good one. Leyline into Green Suns for Dryad Arbor into Knight. I don't mind this, and I drop the Scrub Ranger. It's just going to go Bayou into Green Suns for Oof. Thoughtseize is pretty strong. Taking out only threat. Oh, perfect. Okay. It's just going to be Canopy. I guess I could have played the Caracas. But I'll play Ooze. And then probably just pass with eating the Knight up rather than getting in one. But Ooze is really nice to have alongside Leyline here. They have the Force, okay. So that's a great reason as well to hold up the Dryad Arbor. Crab's okay. Fetch is pretty strong. They hit a trophy in the bin, which is great for us. They fetch now. Okay, they hit a Vengevine. They cast Putrid Imp. We can eat the Vengevine in response. Nice. Alright, let's just attack first. And play Caracas and pass. Nice against Hogaak, and now we have 3 green open to play around with their graveyard. Okay, just a swamp. That's fine. Supply, altar. Pretty big miss. End step, I'm happy just to cycle the Canopy off the Caracas as well. Interesting. So they just think they don't have an answer for the Ooze, which is pretty nice. They had 2 cards in hand. They hit a trophy already. Tough spot. What do we draw off the Canopy? Savannah, and then we draw for turn, Bird. Like, we didn't... Yeah, we had nothing coming. But thankfully, yeah. Just good enough. Yeah, Ooze really solid. Yeah, trophy for Ooze, or just go try to maybe like keep the hand up for 1 turn just to go all out on the graveyard and get past just our 3 green. But yeah, pretty tough spot. I think I'm okay with just sending this back. I can definitely see the consideration for Oof over Knight, because Oof just hits Altar of Dementia and we're not playing any artifacts. But I do like that Knight of Autumn is also a 4/3, or gain 4 life, or destroy Altar, which I like to think that most of the time we'll have a good control over our opponent's graveyard, so Altar isn't an option, but maybe it's worth considering that the flexibility of Knight just isn't worth just what Collector Oof does well. Because a lot of the creatures are 2 power, so the 4/3 Knight can buy a lot of time. It's also just a great attacker as well. Whereas Oof as a 2/2 just isn't that great. If it's on board, it's not really blocking or attacking, which is interesting. Yeah, I think I like the Knight. Hey, Apple Pies. 2 months is huge. A huge thank you. That's really nice. I hope you're doing well. I hope you're having a nice weekend. And I hope you enjoy the content. Yeah, let's run this back and see how this plays out. I definitely wouldn't be too shocked to see someone play Collector Oof against Hogue. Oh, I didn't mean to Hogue. Yeah, this is fine. This is all good. The hand was okay, but I did want to mulligan to Leyline anyway. And I will keep this, but I think I'll hold up the second Leyline, because we can cast it with this hand. I like playing out 1 Leyline into a Force of Vigor, and then having the second. The only thing that is bad against is Assassin's Trophy, And if they just don't draw, if they like, if it gets to a turn where we can play the Leyline out, like, do you still want to play it into Force of Vigor? That's always interesting. I could also put back a Leyline and then keep my birds and also Green Suns. So do something like a it obviously depends on how it plays out in the hand disruption, but like turn 1 bird, turn 2 Knight, turn 3 Zenith for Ooze, and then get Cradle and have access to 3 green. Hey Xal, welcome. You like holding both ley lines? Yes, okay, so the downside of playing out both ley lines is that they just die early to a Force of Vigor. But if we keep a ley line, we can cast it later on. But I'm going to assume that the ley line is going to be destroyed in our end step. So there is going to be at least one turn where our opponent gets their graveyard. And if it gets to turn 3, and we can cast Leyline, and they haven't used a Force of Vigor yet, are we still casting the Leyline? That's the big thing. Yeah, double Leyline is worse versus Force of Vigor, but much better against Assassin's Trophy. Very correct. We do have the Green Suns as well, which I'm going to assume is going to be taken to a Cabal or Thoughtseize, but... Hey, 1-4, welcome. I do want to keep my mana. That's a tough thing, so I'm not sure what I'm dropping. I think it is just a land, because I have a really high upside of drawing into a land. And having the Fetch and Bird's quite nice. So definitely keeping. Bottoming the Bayou. You put down both Metzol and put back Knight. Yeah, it's definitely a good consideration. The only reason I like keeping the Knight and Green Suns is that then I still have a threat through a Thoughtseize. I'm going to put down both. I'm going to hope that they kept an Assassin's Trophy hand. It's Wand only? Apologies. There we go. Like when people say you're my Wand only. Nice. Nice. Okay, that's exactly what I wanted. Pretty happy to get the Bayou. Could also just get Savannah here, which also means that next turn... Yeah, I like Savannah. For Swords to Plowshares. They have 3 cards left, so they kept a 5. There it is. Okay, so they had the Force. Not the worst. Stitcher hits a bridge. Okay. They have 1 card left. I think we just go for Ooze here. Ooze over anything else. This kind of gives them 1 turn to play around with their graveyard, and otherwise, nothing. They have 2 cards left. Oh, wow. That's their turn. Ramanap. Okay. Ramanap is interesting because it also gives me a land back from the graveyard, which means I can hold up 1 green. I probably feel better just passing with the 3 green up here. Yeah, I like passing this turn as well. Just to be a little bit patient. Alright. At least it wasn't a fetch land. That'd be pretty brutal if they did have a... There's a Gravecrawler. which is interesting. I could eat the Gravecrawler with the trigger on the stack here. I think I do want to do that, because it also, with only one card in hand, turns off like Vengevines coming in as well. I guess I could also respond to this Hedron Crab by eating a bridge to take out the thought of like Cabal Therapy sacking the Stitcher Supplier and getting a dude straight away. But I'm probably not too scared of that. They have one card. I think I'm okay to let this resolve. And they hit a Vengevine, so that's actually pretty nice for us. We have 2 left to eat the Vengevine and the bridge. Yeah. Just a really tough spot for them. They mulliganed hard for the Force. And to be fair, it did hit Leyline, so it was a 2 for 2, which is pretty good for them. But the Crabs without the lands to really start going off with their graveyard just really hurt, so... Pretty happy to take that one. Tough. Good decisions, though. There's some cool decisions in there for sure. So thank you, chat. As always. Up against, Milo. I'm quite hungover, so apologies for the voice as well. How do they destroy the ley lines? Force of Vigor. Which is this card here. Which you can play it for free by removing a green card from your hand, which is pretty cool. Yeah, I don't mind this. We have Termine Acceleration into turn 2 Knight or Thalia. Mana's a little bit iffy, but I don't mind it. I'd be more than happy to draw a land for the top, so pretty happy to keep this. Gemstone Mine. Okay, so this could be Dredge or it could be like a lands deck. I'm going to assume it's a lands deck. So Dark Depths, like Rainbow Depths. Especially with main deck Inquisition. Take the swords. No Lotus Petal. This is pretty interesting, because they could go off next turn if they have Crop. They could go Urborg, crop away the Gemstone Mine for Dark Depths, play Hexmage, which is a reason to keep up the Wasteland. But I think I'm okay to try to just get one turn out of it, and Green Sun's here to accelerate. I'm also going to go for a... This is actually a big one. Hey, 90s MTG, welcome. Big shout out to 90s MTG. If you aren't checking out 90s MTG on YouTube or on Twitch, you should definitely check them out. They have some really good content for Legacy, for Vintage, for a bunch of formats. Good people. So here I can go for Savannah and then turn to Thalia, hold up Wasteland, or I can go for black and try to turn off Hexmage as soon as possible. But I think here I'm happy to go for Savannah to get Thalia online, and also Knight. Two very good cards. And just hope they don't have the turn 2. Truth, yeah, Cardboard's got it. Just gonna 6 here. There's the Urborg. Okay. But just a pass. Nice. Okay. Windswept Heath. I probably don't mind going for Knight here off the Wasteland. And then we can, if we really need to, Green Suns for Scrib Ranger the following turn to just buy some more time if they try to go for it as soon as possible. I also want to play the Wasteland here and not the Windswept Heath because this is unknown information, so I'd much rather them think we have anything from as worse as like a Karakas in hand or a Source de Plagiers. But this is always a pretty fun matchup. I think Maverick has a lot of tools to beat it, but Depths can definitely have the right cards to beat our best hands. Especially when you have cards like Sajiri Step or Not of This World. Can get a little bit messy. Has Depths changed with Strixhaven? I wouldn't say so, but I have seen a fair amount of decks playing... at least green-black, not so turbo depths, but the slow depths decks have been picking up the Witherbloom combo with Witherbloom Apprentice and Chain of Smog, which is pretty interesting as like a second win con. But I think for the most part, a lot of it's the same. Abundant Harvest is a cool card. Yeah, Abundant Harvest is really nice. I know that Auntie's a big fan of it. Just a pass. Interesting. Well then. Let's start getting some damage. So let's fetch up here. I didn't actually have to fetch, but I do want the extra damage going through Night. Go and get a Bayou. And then here I don't mind going for Hexmage. So going for Scrib Ranger, which means we can hold up Knight and also attack in the same turn, which is kind of cool. Just to start getting some pressure going. Hey, Forster Williams. I hope you're doing well. I hope there's a good team of WA players going over to Melbourne Eternal. Sylvan Scrying, okay. Sylvan Scrying here most likely going to find some way to hit this Wasteland, which isn't the worst. It could also be getting Thespian Stage. That's fine. We have a pretty nice lock here, I think. It's going to be pretty hard for my opponent to get out of it. Alright, let's go... We can take our time here, which is nice. This is definitely a matchup where the games go pretty quickly, so I just want to make sure that I miss nothing. I think it's a case of trying to play out Engineer and Library, but also having up Wasteland, which we have 2, 3, 4, 5 mana. So we can go 1, 2, 3. Let's quickly check out what Vampire Hexmage is. I believe it's a Human Shaman. Vampire Shaman, okay. So let's play Engineer. Vampire. Maybe there's a world where Shaman Bloom is Witherbloom Apprentice. Is a Human Druid. Okay, I thought it might be a Shaman for a second, so there might be overlap. Just in case we draw a second Engineer, then we can actually kill both of them. But Vampire is fine. Now we can... I'm going to attack first. Hey, the Great Revel. Welcome. Too kind. Too kind. Hope meditation's going well. I've started finding some time for myself as well on most days, which is good. Get a bit of headspace. Opponent could have like a Elvish Spirit Guide to copy Dark Depths here, but thankfully the Wasteland's just doing so much work. We haven't seen a Pithing Needle yet from our opponent as well, which is pretty unfortunate for them. Pithing Needle really nice because it turns off Wasteland, turns off Karakas, Night from searching up creatures, or land, sorry. Alright. So thankfully they still don't know about this Verdant, so I don't want to play it. So let's go Script Ranger, untap Dried Arbor, return the Bayou. And then play the Bayou, play the Sylvan Library. Just in case we need to dig for like a Swords to Plowshares or something. There's Spirit Guide, okay. They're going to crop here. Interesting. So what they could do is crop into Ghost Quarter or Wasteland for our Wasteland, and then maybe still have another Spirit Guide for Urborg Thoughtseize, or Urborg into Stage, which is interesting. Hey Swamp, I hope you're well. I've been good, taking a little break from streaming, but back to it now. They do get Ghost Quarter, that's okay. Now they're going to go after it. This definitely makes me feel like they have... Yeah, interesting. Gotta go for it. Hey, Anzi. A huge thank you for the raid. I hope you're doing well. Let me know what you just played and how you went. Hey everyone from Anzi's stream. I'm Dukes on Twitch. I think I'm actually just losing to Depths here, unfortunately. They don't have another crop, hopefully. We do have to play around Step, which is pretty big, because we do have the Scrib Ranger. Went 0-4. That's fine. The score never represents how much you learn from games, so that's always a nice one. Stage. That's okay. Are they going to try to attack here? They are. So let's go... Scrib Ranger return the Bayou. Nice. Okay. Alright. Game on. We could have hit the Urborg, but I did want to make them go for the actual one. Okay. Swords is stupid here. So we might as well pay for all of this. They have 2 cards left. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I think we go for Karakas first, and then see if we have to use the swords. So let's float white. Nice. So if we got Karakas with Knight last turn, and then they had Not of This World, then we would die. But if we get to just untap the Scrib Ranger, Not of This World doesn't do anything. So I wanted to play around Not of This World, which they actually didn't have. So pretty lucky for us. Depths is going to be pretty interesting. I do like the paths. I do like the Force of Vigor, especially for Pithing Needle. Kai is always interesting, but probably not good enough. Zealous is always interesting as well because of cards like Sylvan Safekeeper. Yeah, this is Rainbow Depths. I keep referring it to green-black, sorry. Yeah, so the we couldn't untap the Wasteland there because we'd already used Script Ranger's ability, which is a once a turn ability to untap the Dried Arbor for mana to cast the Sylvan Library. But yeah, it can be a tough one because obviously Script Ranger isn't played too much in Legacy, and the activated only once each turn isn't always kind of brought up as a mainstay. Oh, this plays a Melbourne player? Cool. Okay. Thoughtseize is always interesting, but they usually go pretty low on cards. I do like the mums, I do like the swords. Hexdrink is nice, it's just another way to try to get there, but at the same time, this isn't really a matchup for Hex. I'd rather just get to bigger creatures than rely on a Hex, which can also be hit by Vampire Hexmage, to be fair. Oof is interesting, only hits Lotus Petal though. It might just be like 2 Thoughtseize. Cut the Wastelands and the Caracas. Yeah, definitely interesting. And to be fair, it could be greedy for me for playing the Sylvan Library. Maybe it was correct just to hold up Knight and Wasteland. But yeah, let's see how this goes. What happened with Stoneforge? There's definitely a few Maverick players who are doing really well with Stoneforge, which is cool. I just like cutting the Stoneforge Mystic package to make my removal and creature package a little bit better, because for every extra green creature you have in the deck, Green Suns just gets that little bit more powerful. This is a pretty interesting hand, and I definitely don't mind it. We have, like, Mum and Birds is obviously quite good against Marit Lage. We have Swords as interaction. We have Acceleration into, hopefully, Knight off the Green Suns, so pretty happy to keep this. Opponent really needs a fast start, because if you give Maverick time, it's just going to usually come out on top. Second Mum, okay. I still think Acceleration here is better than playing Mum out, but getting Mum online is pretty crucial. Obviously, if my opponent's on Plague Engineers in the 75, then the double Mum starts a little bit rough, but Savannah's fine here into Bird. Bird's just really nice because it does usually warrant some sort of removal spell from your opponent, and Mum definitely makes that a reality. Urborg. So again, they could have just had it there with like Crop Rotation, Dark Depths, Hexmage. Always pretty scary. Library's pretty nice. I think here I'm happy just to go Mum and Library off a Bayou. I didn't have to fetch there. And to be fair, it was actually incorrect to fetch there because the fetch is just so good with the Sylvan Library. In case I don't want to pay it anymore for maybe extra mana draw because I want to shuffle them away and pay life for other cards, I should have just tapped that for black. So definitely a misstep on my half. I do like second white. So Mum into Library. This also allows us to dig for our 4th mana source for Green Suns for 3 next turn. But we might also just want to hold up the Swords to Plowshares. Ah, nice. Miles is a good friend. Miles is also a Maverick player from Melbourne. Very, very cool. Okay. Pedal's going to be okay. Pedal could mean something, but it could also just mean my opponent is playing it around, say, a Thalia next turn if we kept in Thalia. You don't really want to be paying 1 for your Lotus Petals. But they are holding up the combo. So a Wasteland off the top is what I really want. Not there, but let's put these on top. Play the Windswept Heath. And then I might just go all in on my 1 mana spells. then we can hold up swords here through the second Savannah, or through the bird, which is nice. But I do want to fetch in the end step to get rid of that birds and Sylvan Library, which we don't really need. No end step play is really nice for us. A plague here would be pretty annoying, because it does get rid of 3 of our creatures and takes a 4th card to get rid of, but pretty happy with just the pass. Just going to go for Savannah. Yeah. I could go for Dried Arbor to start getting some attacks in. It is 1 more than the Noble, but I think this is fine. Wasteland's huge. And Force of Vigor is pretty nice, but not really needed. So let's go Wasteland for turn. And then we just get 2 Green Suns for a Knight. And then we have birds and swords open, which is kind of cool. So a pretty good spot here from us. There is a world where I could attack with a Mum here for 2, but I'm pretty happy just taking the turn to untap with Knight, hopefully. Scrying's going to be okay. Something like a... Haha, hey Force. A huge thank you for the gift subs. Very nice. I very much appreciate you. And hopefully I will see you soon. I won't be seeing you at Melbourne, unfortunately. But yeah, hopefully we will be having some beers together very soon. Too kind, too kind. Decay is pretty interesting. Put on top, so we can draw the Decay if we want it off the canopy. Thoughts on 4-color Maverick? Max Drussman is a guy that's been playing a lot of 4-color lately and has been really enjoying it. I think more a punishing deck with black, more than a 4-color with Leo. But I do think that, yeah, Leo's a pretty solid card, especially as a Green Sun's target for Maverick. My thoughts would just be, make sure you get the mana base right, because that's what you really want to make sure you can achieve. Pretty happy just to play it pretty safe here and attack with the Noble. Keep up the Knight for a shuffle, because we know the top card is Abrupt Decay and Forest. And then we can draw a card in the blind, which is pretty cool. Hey, Paperman Games, thanks for the follow. Alright, so now we're definitely in a commanding position. We have Swords to Plowshares, Wasteland, and an active Knight with protection with Mums. Pithing Needle is definitely a start here, but thankfully we do have Abrupt Decay on top to deal with Pithing Needle, which could turn off Wasteland. But then we also have Knight for Caracas, which is, of course, more interaction. Scrying. Okay. Blaststone, yeah, I think I talked about Blaststone before, but Blaststone here would be very cool. I haven't seen Blaststone in a lot of lists, but it would be very cool. Yeah, too kind, Force of Williams. Too kind. A gentleman from WA. A big fan of Bug Delver, I believe, if you're still on the Bug Delver deck. Ghost Quarter. Okay. Alright. I'm just going to go after the Dark Depths here. They have 4 cards left and it's their main phase. There is a world where Rite of Consumption is what my opponent's plan is, especially in this game, where Rite of Consumption allows you to play around a lot of removal. Rite of Consumption is 1 and a black sorcery. As an additional cost to casting this spell, sacrifice a creature, and you deal damage. I can play my knight, yeah. But, so you can sack the Marit Lage and deal 20 to your opponent without them having to interact, which is pretty cool. But thankfully we do have the line of, like, Swords Our Own Knight to gain the life above 20. Yeah, Rite of Consumption is pretty sweet. I was always a big fan. It didn't help when Veil was printed, which can be a pretty big blowout. Is Opposition Agent something Maverick would consider? I've definitely played around with it. I never saw it enough to make a call on it. It is pretty good because it does make some of your bad matchups better, like Doomsday or Elves. Elves a little bit better in the black versions because you do have cards like Plague Engineer. But it's also quite strong against, you know, opposing Stoneforge decks, which you do have a pretty good time against. It's a tough one being a black creature, but also Flash is something that's pretty good. Like, just don't underestimate the ability of a 3/2 Flash creature, which is kind of cool. Yeah, Aven Mindsense is pretty cool, which is very similar. It is a little bit easier on mana, and still sees some play in green-white lists. I know that it's Julian. Julian Nab is a big fan of the deck, or of the card in green-white depths. Hey, Dead Guy, a huge thank you for the follow. Let me know where you're from. If you play Legacy, what do you play in Legacy? Alright, so they are cropping it away. Okay. Interesting. The question is, do I want the Decay? And I think I do, just for Pithy Needle. So I'm going to draw the Decay, and then sack the second Savannah for the Caracas. They've already used their Ghost Quarter, which usually is only a one-of. I could also just get a Wasteland here to stop them from actually comboing off and then having Not of This World. So we'll see what my opponent does here. If they make the 20/20, then we get to get Caracas, tap it, target it. If they have Not of This World, we get to untap, target it. So they kind of have to have double Not of This World if they want to go for the combo here. Oh, Stifle's pretty cool. Nice, yeah. That's going to be fine. So we know Forest is on top and then 2 unknowns. I'm pretty happy to draw the Forest and just see the 2 unknowns instead of using the Knight here for a shuffle. I think Knight's just too good untapped. Okay. Well, we'll definitely be shuffling next turn. We can get in with a... They have 2 cards. I'm going to get in with a Mum here to get the extra damage in. But hey, I hope everyone in chat is doing well. Hope you're all having a nice weekend. It's obviously pretty tough in some places around the world, so hopefully you're enjoying my content. You can find me on YouTube as well. All my content is uploaded there, and I do YouTube exclusives, which you can find in chat. And then, of course, at the Green Sun Zenith. I've been kind of in writer's block. I haven't had much motivation to be writing, which definitely sucks. Doesn't feel great, but hopefully there will be something coming out soon. I am currently doing the Maverick matchup analysis with a blue-black ninjas player, which is cool. So that should be coming out pretty soon. Hey, Legacy Council, welcome. I hope you're doing well. I think here I just want to float white and go and get a wasteland. We do want to get those 2 bayous, or the bayou in the forest off the top of the deck, so... Pretty happy to see what happens here. This could just be another stifle. They're going to crop. Okay. Interesting. Another stage. Sure. Ah, okay. This is actually probably them wanting to turn a stage into a wasteland if we grab one. So I'm just going to get the Caracas. And then untap. See some fresh cards with library. Detroit area US. Very cool. Yikes. I do want to try to find a second threat here. That'd be nice. I am still going to play the wasteland out. And I'm probably in a position here where I'm happy to attack with the knight. Let's just make a quick one. So we can attack for 10. If they make the 20/20, then we have Caracas, Wasteland, and Swords. If they try to copy Wasteland with Thespian Stage, we can Wasteland it, and then still have Caracas, Swords up, and Birds. I think we're pretty happy here to attack with the knight. BUG is the only card that could slow this down, so I might as well try to get one attack in. Especially seeing that we have, even if they have, like, Step for pro green on the Birds of Paradise, we have Swords, we have Caracas, we have Wasteland. So they're going to try to copy the Wasteland here. So I can actually fizzle this by going after another spell, like Dark Depths. Or another land, sorry. So I don't mind Wasteland on Dark Depths. They can then tap 3 thanks to Urborg to create a 20/20. We then have Caracas. And also Bird and Sword. So I'm pretty happy to just make them have it here. Okay, they actually let that resolve. Interesting. They have 1 card left. This is going to be tough. They have another Dark Depths. That's okay. They can't block because we have protection, which is nice. Unfortunately, I think it was just a bit of a slow draw from our opponent. And luckily we had Mum into, like, Birds into Mum, and then Knight came down. Wastelands are strong. Really, really tough for them to get out of from the early game. I actually played some Rainbow Depths last week on YouTube, which you can find on my YouTube channel. Sweet plug. Sweet plug. I think they're only out from their end is Rite of Consumption, but they don't know that we have the Swords. Hey man, yeah, that's pretty tough. That's a tough one. Script Ranger always gets people, especially because it isn't a card that isn't seen in Legacy too much. So, yeah, good games. It was just a tough one from you. Like, you had a pretty slow start. Both games, I believe, we had Knight and Wasteland, which makes it really tough. Especially because it's a case of, like, Ghost Quartering for a way to deal with Wasteland, and then making sure you can combo that turn, but then also have protection on your turn. Hope you're well as well. Alright, we're 3-1. I'm going to go to the bathroom real quick. I'll be back in a second. Lyzerg, thanks for the follow. Let me know where you're from. If you play Legacy, what do you play in Legacy? Back in a second. Hey, thanks, man. You too. All right, let's do this. Let's try to finish this 4-1. Would be nice. Scavenging Booze winning the trophy race with 8 trophies. Valencia and Boba in second with 8. Very cool. Arkan doing well. Arkan in Chapter 4 with 6 trophies. Very nice. Yeah, 4-1 would be nice, Star Fox. 4-1 would be nice. Hopefully don't play against Elves. No, Elves is pretty fun. Especially with the Black Splash, I definitely feel like the deck has more game against Elves than other versions. And it is pretty interactive, which is nice. Can't be too unhappy about that. Don't worry, I'm not queuing. Nice. I hope you're doing well. Alright. Am I playing the Wintermox? I am not, unfortunately. I wish I was, but I just couldn't commit to the time. Oh, up against Eric. Interesting. I haven't played against Eric in ages. I am going to mulligan this. Bit of a nothing hand. Yeah. I don't really want to go to 5, to be fair, so I'm going to keep this and bottom probably the Knight of Autumn. It's just a little bit more of a Green Sun's target than anything else. And I probably just want to go Chancellor. Okay. Well then. How often has Mav played Ghost Quarter? I'm not too sure. I could definitely see it if there were, like, if you wanted to go in on Ramanap being a bit better against the basic heavy decks. It's also sometimes nice if your opponent on Turbodeps is playing Pithy Needle. But I haven't seen it too much. If anything, I've seen like just 3 Wastelands and an extra land. I think I'm just going to go Savannah Pass, which gives away a fair bit of the deck, but I could just go Wasteland Pass. I think it's just Savannah Pass. It's gonna be tough. The Chancellor is really nice, and Eric keeping 7 is usually a pretty good 7 from Reanimator. But if you're gonna go 4-1, you might as well go 4-1 against one of the best. It is Eric. This is weird. This is like when you were a kid and you played Pokemon and you were like in the grass for ages trying to find that one Pokemon and you never saw it, and then you finally run into it. You're like, oh. Ferd and Unmask. Yeah. Okay. The Golden Bellsprout. Yeah. Or those are the 3 dogs in silver or gold that you let go, the legendary dogs. And sometimes you can see them on the map, but usually once you get there, they're gone. You just got to run into them randomly. All right. The myth. Eric with a strong opening here. Down to 5. Pedal. Chrome Mox. Yeah, that's fair. Chancellor, white. This will be tough because I think Eric's usually bringing in... Yes. How could you? How could you, Eric? Usually brings in Serenity against me. Even Caracas here as a good draw step does nothing. I'm going to play the Canopy out. Gonna say this, yeah. This game is very over. But until my life total is 0 or they get another 7, we'll see what happens. Even if I can see one of their if they have like an odd choice for a one-off target for Reanimator, I do want to see that. Leyline Thoughtseize is really strong. I do like Parts as well. Kai is not too bad because there is a world where it's good enough. Plagues are coming out. Ramanap's too slow. Gaddock Teeg's too slow. I don't mind taking out Decays. They only really hit Animate Dead. I definitely don't mind Thalia. Hexdrink is interesting as just an early threat. I am going to take out the Beast, unfortunately. Just a little bit too slow. Second Library can come out. I do like Knight of Autumn just as a target for Animate Dead. They could definitely play Magus. But thankfully we do have the Swords in the Path for that, if needed. I don't think we need the Oof. I could probably go down on, yeah, like one path for an extra. That's actually 60, which is kind of nice. I'm going to see how this goes. Kai is definitely interesting. It should be good enough on the play, but this is a leyline hand that just doesn't really do anything otherwise. So I am going to mulligan this. Especially with the Dried Arbor already. It's not like we're really going into anything, accelerating into anything, so pretty happy to mull this. Well, this is probably just another trap hand, to be honest. We don't have green mana at the moment, which is pretty tough. I could go double Leyline, but that doesn't play around Serenity or the green card that costs less if you Reverend Silence. I feel like we just keep this and just bottom a Leyline and just hope the double Leyline is good enough. Serenity is it's tough because both is instant speed. All of their outs are instant speed to Leyline, so there's no point not putting in both here because it's not like we'll get a situation where they destroy one and then we get to untap and play the other one. They'll definitely get a chance to do something in between. But a bit of a trap hand because it doesn't have much of a plan. Unless we draw green mana straight up, it's going to be really tough. An opponent might just have like a creature here, like Rotting Register or something. Or Magus. Yeah. Magus pretty good. This is, yeah, definitely a hand where I wanted the extra, mana for Noble, but sometimes you just don't get it. We do have some good draws. We have planes and two basics. They probably take the Noble because it turns on everything. They take the Mum. Interesting. Maybe they reanimate my own Mum. Yeah. Reanimator played doing this to Eldrazi. Nice. Yeah, it's definitely a tough way to take defeat, but definitely just part of the game. I mean, we have Leylines to shut off their graveyard as a resource, and they have Magus to turn off our lands as a resource, so can't really complain. Hey, okay. There we go. That's a start. Hey, Timmy C, welcome. No blocks here. Green Suns, interesting. No great Green Suns targets. Did we take out... I think we took out Hexdrinker. Oh, maybe not. No, we didn't. Okay. Hex is pretty sweet here. Questing Beast is out. Yeah. I think Hex is just best because it also makes them use the Magus. Knight of the Reliquary isn't great. It's only a 2/2. I could get another... Maybe I should have got another Mana Dork, but I think this is okay. I could also play out Ooze here, and then just see if they will give Pro to the Magus if I block with Hexdrinker. No, I'm pretty happy making this a 4/4. This is fine. Knight of Autumn can also deal with the Animate Dead, which is nice. Attack's interesting. We do just get to block here. And then they use the Mum. That's fine. Maybe they have like Collective Brutality? No, okay. Okay, so I think here we have to take care of the Animate Dead. I feel like I have a stop on that I don't want to have on, and I'm not too sure what it is. What happened to Mum? I took out the Animate Dead with a Knight of Autumn. Okay. We do have a 2-turn clock here, which is nice. They need something big. But like Grave Titan doesn't do it. They've got rid of Elishnorn already, so yeah, thankfully we get game 2. Whew. Yikes. Alright. Do I want to change anything? If they are going for Magus, I don't mind questing Beast because it's just a really good creature to have to be both aggressive and defensive. I'm not sure if Thoughtseize is where I want to be, especially on the draw, but possibly it's okay. I could just lead more into Swords to Plowshares. What do I want to do here? Force of Vigor is also interesting because of Animate Dead, but I don't think that's good enough. Maybe it is. Maybe on the draw I just have to buy as much time as possible. So something like this. Take out a Thoughtseize. Because I'm pretty happy usually to force and lose a green card to hit an Animate Dead. Force of Vigor does deal with Serenity as well, that's very true. I'm going to see how this goes. And hopefully it's good enough. A Leyline with a good start would be nice. This is definitely tough on the draw. It has everything against a Mega start, which is nice, in both a Forest and Noble Hierarch. But it doesn't have a Leyline. That's the big one. We currently have one black source to go. If we draw into a Leyline, we can cast it, but otherwise, definitely an interesting one. They chose to mulligan to 6. I feel like this is good enough. It's a tough one because the Leylines are kind of dead draws. But I don't want to have a hand again where it's just Leyline hand with no actual plan, because that's where you get stuck. You know, Leyline only buys you so much amount of time. I'm gonna keep this. I'm gonna keep this. I think there are better hands in a really competitive environment to actually mulligan for Leyline, but I think this hand does enough, especially if they're on the Magus plan. I could get Scrubland if they don't have a turn 1 play. I could also lead on Hierarch. Depends on what we draw. Hey Ob, thank you. Yeah, I think if I did have a 6 and it had a Leyline, it would also have to have a basic and most likely a Mana Accelerant. Or even a Green Suns. Yeah, it'd be tough. But yeah, I think this hand is okay. Yeah, I think that Scrub into Seize is most likely the turn 1 play. They mull to 5 cards. But there's definitely still a 5. I mean, like Land, Dark Ritual, Entomb, Exhume. Or Land, Dark Ritual, Reanimate. Animate Dead. There's a few ones. Alright. I kept 5. Yeah, they have it. Rough. Unmask themselves. Oh, wait. Did they just get rid of a Grizzlebrand? Did they just... Shouldn't they have got rid of the Animate Dead? And then they can reanimate their Grizzlebrand? Yeah, I think they misclicked. Ah, they misclicked. No! No, Eric! No! 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 Oh, that's tough. That's really tough. I would be happy to concede there. That's a tough one. That's a tough one. Wow. Yeah, because obviously you unmask yourself, pitch the Animate Dead, and then you have Grizzlebrand to discard and then reanimate to get it back into play. Tough. 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 Well, we get the 4-1, which on paper it's fine, but yeah, that's a tough one. That's Eric. I've been there. I've definitely been there. All right, Decktech. Deck felt sweet. I think I'd like to run it back. Kaya's been interesting. Kaya's nice because it is graveyard hate against decks where I don't want Leyline, but it might be better to have something like Nihil Spellbomb. Kaya is also nice because it's okay against Maverick and D&T, but it's also really good against like elves or goblins. But yeah, Kaya is just nice because it's also just attacking on a different axis than just creatures. But maybe Spellbomb is okay. I do like that Spellbomb does replace itself most of the time, but Kaya getting a lot of value is also pretty sweet. Kaya also decent against lands because it also hits Exploration and Mox Diamond and Elvish Reclaimer, which is kind of cool. Yeah, not much to say. That was an interesting league, to be fair. But a 4-1 is always really nice. A huge thank you to Riley and Anzi for the raids. Very, very kind. I'll be back next Thursday night at 7:30 PM Australian Eastern Standard Time. If you do want to get a notification when I go live, you can follow me on Twitch, which I very much appreciate. But until then, I'm going to see who else is playing some Legacy and send you guys over there. Usually the pit is, and the Legacy pit is, so is Newton, which actually I'm going to send you guys over to. Eternal Magic, you are more than welcome. Newton is a really good Legacy Elves player, Legacy player in general, Magic player in general. Has won a Legacy Showcase, I believe, with Elves, which is really cool. But yeah, I hope you enjoy this content, and enjoy your weekends. I will see you soon. All the best. Take care. Nice.